Hello, this is Unit 6 Mastery Assignment, Boeing. This presentation was put together by Jacob Burton for the Integrative Supply Chain Management course taught by Professor Lumbaugh at Southwestern College Professional Studies. All right, let's go ahead and jump right into it. In this presentation, I will talk about Boeing and several aspects that are important to Boeing's supply chain management. These different topics I will cover are supply chain management, purchasing process, supplier relationship management, ethical and sustainable sourcing, demand forecasting, resource planning systems, inventory management, lean thinking, domestic and global logistics, customer relationship management, global location decisions, supply chain management risks and security issues, and then I'll wrap up the presentation with a conclusion, and I'll provide the list of references that made this presentation possible. All right, getting right into it. So Boeing. The Boeing Company is a leading manufacturer in the aerospace industry. It's based in the United States of America. They build many different types of aircraft for commercial purposes, including cargo and passenger movements. So you've probably flown on like 737s before, maybe 717s. They also build aircraft for the military. So if you've heard of, things like the F-18, the F-15, KC-46, even some reconnaissance aircrafts, E-7 Wedgetail, things like that, bombers, the Boeing bombers, B-52. So additionally, they also build various types of satellites, rockets, and space vehicles. So Boeing builds a lot of different types of aerospace vehicles. His company's success massively affects the United States and its ability to move products and people. It also massively affects the ability of America to project military power around the world. If Boeing cannot produce quality aircraft for its customers in a timely manner and in a cost-efficient way, then Americans will ultimately suffer the consequences of those failures, or Americans will greatly benefit from its success. So supply chain management with Boeing, right? What is this about? So supply chain management can be described as design, planning, execution, control, and monitoring of supply chain activities with the intent to create value, build a competitive infrastructure, leverage worldwide logistics, synchronize supply and demand, and measure performance globally. So those are the things that we're really going to be taking a look at today with all the different subjects. Boeing's version of supply chain management looks something like demand planning and forecasting, modeling and simulation, and sourcing and supply base management, warehousing, logistics, and asset lifecycle management. So all of these stages encompass a product going from raw material to production to the customer, and then even continued support for the intended use of the product. So that's that lifecycle management. Moving on, the next area we'll talk about is Boeing's purchasing process. So to ensure uninterrupted flows of material at low cost, improving the quality of a finished good, and maximizing customer satisfaction, all of this is through the use of a robust purchasing process. So a robust purchasing process guarantees the right price, the right quality, at the right time. It also guarantees the right supplier. So all of this translates to creating a product with the same qualities as well. This is important as there's a significant number of parts that go into building an aircraft. So I just barely mentioned it earlier. For example, the Boeing 737 MAX, it has 2 million parts. So Boeing collaborates with its suppliers early to ensure the end product meets requirements levied by the customer through its purchasing process. The next area of discussion is the supplier relationship management. So we talked about early involvement, but a hallmark of supplier relationship management is building a mutual commitment over an extended period of time to the benefit of both parties. So during the ongoing development of the KC-46 aircraft, so this is an example, we have the collaboration between Collins and Boeing. So Boeing worked closely with Collins Aerospace and the Air Force, actually, to fix the design deficiencies with the KC-46 remote vision system. So the KC-46 is a United States military aircraft. It's a refueling aircraft. Its development has cost Boeing $6.8 billion, which was $1.4 billion more than the Air Force actually paid for the development of the aircraft. So due to those cost overruns related to deficiencies and the inability of Boeing to meet contractual requirements, they had to eat that additional cost. So it's important for Boeing to realize opportunities to get more involvement from their suppliers to guarantee a product that meets its customers' needs. So for the system that's actually replacing the old remote vision system, that's that collaboration that I'm talking about between Collins and the Air Force and Boeing. So that'll be used to develop a system that's going to work correctly and replace the one that doesn't before, and will meet those contractual requirements. All right, moving right along, ethical and sustainable sourcing. So another supply chain management is that, and it's something that many people in the United States actively seek ways to acquire materials through sustainable methods and ethical practices. So it's something that people in the United States care about a lot. The different areas that companies consider when looking into sustainable sourcing are environmental, social, and governance responsibilities. So it might seem like a slight joke when discussing aircraft and sustainability, but sustainability does mean more than just carbon footprint. So we have to think about it in the larger scale. Boeing approaches its sustainable sourcing through collaboration with industry partners via the International Aerospace Environmental Group, or Internation rather, Aerospace Environmental Group. Boeing's sustainable practices are focused on supplier diversification in small businesses, recycling titanium, using alternative packaging to help reduce waste, and improving on its carbon disclosure product. That's designed to help the aerospace industry understand the impacts of its operations and how they can follow those impacts up with actionable content, whether it be switching from, perhaps this type of fluid to this type of fluid, ways to increase engine efficiency, stuff like that to help reduce that carbon footprint, or even just really, fuel efficiency is a big one, or different aircraft designs to help realize that fuel efficiency. So big strides being made in that area of sustainability in the aviation industry. The next piece to talk about is demand forecasting. Demand forecasting sounds exactly like the name. So it's the ability of a company to accurately forecast the demand for a product, or rather the ability of a company to accurately forecast the demand of a product is critical to the planning of resources and manpower. So Boeing actually believes that there is the demand for 19,000 new commercial aircraft over the next 10 years and 43,500 new commercial aircraft over the next 20 years. With demand forecasting, this doesn't necessarily mean that Boeing is planning to meet that demand forecasting, but they're realizing that there is a market and they expect that around that amount of aircraft will be needed at that point. So Boeing will do what it can to meet customer needs where it can. By using demand forecasting, it will have a better understanding of the market and its needs over the next couple decades too. So Boeing uses this information to allocate resources and manpower to achieve the level of production it deems adequate. And it can plan for expansion or reduction in various areas. So to meet this level of demand though, Boeing would need to produce 2,000 aircraft per year, for like the next 20 years. So also they expect that the highest demand aircraft type would be a narrow body aircraft. So 737 MAX is the one, that they have competing right now in that category. But anyways, the 737 MAX is actually made up of 2 million parts. So this demand forecasting really sets a company up to start figuring out how it's going to allocate resources and manpower. I mean, that's a significant lift that needs to happen to prepare the company for high production levels to even get close to that. Moving right along, so resource planning systems. The level of resource planning required to achieve Boeing's forecast of 2,000 aircraft per year over the next 20 years is significant. Effective resource planning involves production planning and scheduling, bills of material, material requirement plans, capacity planning, and distribution planning. The types of systems that can incorporate all the critical parts to effective resource planning are called enterprise resource planning systems. So Boeing uses its inventory planning tool to interface with its forecasting tools. That's a version of enterprise resource planning system. The inventory planning tool is used to plan for material consumption, industry lead times, and factors in supplier delivery performance. By using tools that interact with each other at the various supply chain stages, Boeing can accurately allocate resources to the right locations at the right time. All right, moving right along, inventory management. So it's critical in every type of business. Depending on the type of industry and size of an organization, the carrying costs of inventory can cost 20 to 30% of the total inventory. So with that in mind, it's critical that Boeing manages its inventory to the max extent possible. If the carrying costs of inventory are 20 to 30% of the total inventory, and Boeing is building hundreds to thousands of aircraft a year, then they have hundreds of millions of dollars tied up in inventory and thus have significant carrying costs. It was mentioned that Boeing will have to build thousands of aircraft per year if it wants to meet the demands that were forecasted, but it's not an all clear to buy millions of aircraft parts or millions of dollars of aircraft parts and hold on to those parts until they're finally used because it costs money to store things. Moving along to the next part, lean thinking. So part of effective supply chain management is incorporating lean thinking into every stage. While no specific method has been developed to adapt lean tools to the characteristics of the aerospace sector, there are several lean experiences that do exist in the industry. And this makes sense for an industry that's highly specialized, but it's also significantly expensive. And is also significantly expensive, excuse me. Any form of waste reduction, inventory, and setup time reduction or continuous improvement is going to have major effects on a company's ability to complete projects on time, at cost, and at a high quality. Boeing uses a lean by design method, actually, where the goal is to incorporate lean principles into the production of a product, service, or system during the design phase instead of incorporating them after the fact. So by incorporating these principles early on in the design phase, Boeing reduces the risk likelihood of a product or process and creates better results sooner. All right, domestic and global logistics. So with aircraft requiring a significant number of parts, it's not uncommon to receive parts that have been made overseas. So this calls for robust domestic and global logistics. For example, Boeing contracts with the Collins Aerospace to build its 787 flight deck visual displays. While Collins assembles these displays, it's possible that the components, or at least some of the components, come from a different country before Collins assembles them. Japan, for example, has many companies that specialize in building components for displays and building large displays themselves. Because of the reliance on global manufacturing, Boeing needs to consider the logistics of how it receives key components from different countries, even if they are the supplier, even if those components are from the supplier to their supplier for different aircraft equipment, because it all affects each other. Perhaps one of the more, and then also, I have down there a picture, 747 Dreamlifter, another piece to domestic and global logistics is actually moving stuff around, right? So the Boeing 747 Dreamlifter, this aircraft was designed to carry 787 fuselages inside of it, assemblies inside of it, between various countries. So I found that pretty impressive and thought I'd include it on here. We got a company that's worried about domestic and global logistics and makes aircraft as well that help move itself around. So It's pretty impressive. Okay, customer relationship management. This is the next area of discussion. Customer relationship management is the process of building long-term relationships that are mutually beneficial. So Boeing has customers mainly in the form of airlines, but customers in over 150 countries. This means that they have a wide range of people that they deal with every day. Additionally, you have to consider how their products might affect those people. An example of possibly not considering the various customers during the design phase is the design of the 737 MAX flight control augmentation system, and how to recover the aircraft should that system fail and place the aircraft pilots and passengers in an unsafe condition. While Boeing followed the required certification process during the design phase, the lack of systems descriptions and additional training may have led to pilot error during 2 different aviation mishaps, resulting in the death of over 300 people. So it was pretty bad. Boeing has to consider how their products will be used by its wide range of customers and bridge those gaps to avoid situations like this. It's all part of customer relationship management. They got to make sure that they're making the right stuff for the right people and covering the in-between. Global location decisions. So in addition to delivering aircraft all around the world, Boeing has employees in 65 countries. They have manufacturing, service, and technology partnerships with companies and governments worldwide, with more than 20,000 diverse suppliers and partners. By partnering with these different countries around the world, Boeing can increase the efficiency and effectiveness of managing its supply chain and providing support to its customers, which improves its overall competitiveness. Let's see. The last topic we'll talk about is supply chain management risks and security issues. So with Boeing having those 20,000 suppliers and partners around the world, the ability to manage its supply chain is going to be critical to its success, and it has been so far. One of the massive benefits of having so many diverse suppliers is that Boeing has options. If a supplier is experiencing some type of interruption to production, Boeing can source parts from other locations. Additionally, having diverse suppliers helps with security issues. If the interruptions are due to security issues, then Boeing can source parts from a different supplier. However, one of the significant challenges of having so many suppliers is the ability to guarantee quality products. Boeing recently had an in-flight emergency where a hatch opened during flight, and that hatch departed the airplane. The issue was traced to a supplier where they were using the wrong material to lubricate some of the seals around the door. So diversity can be a strength, but it also means that there are 20,000 companies, 20,000 different suppliers that could potentially miss a small detail that has significant impact later on. So in this presentation, I covered several aspects that are important to Boeing's supply chain management. The different topics are discussed here on the slide. They're continued. So really, to wrap this all up, Boeing's success has come from building good relationships with its suppliers and customers. Though there have been issues, moments over the years where disaster has struck or something has been missed for one reason or another, Boeing does continue to deliver aircraft that are used every day by many countries and by the United States military. The biggest challenge ahead of Boeing is finding ways to integrate with their suppliers and customers at the earliest stages. Getting involved early on is what's going to save a lot of heartache down the road, making sure that everybody's on the same page during the design of these complex systems. Because in the aviation industry, the smallest errors can lead to some of the larger catastrophes. Boeing's relationship management with both its suppliers and customers will rely on its ability to communicate requirements and ensure quality products for its customers. And here is a list of references over the next couple slides that help me put this presentation together. Thank you for your time.